This again. Okay, everything's looking good. What up, world? It's Radioactive Podcast. It's your host, Ace Boogie. And guys, we got a special guest with us. Introduce yourself again, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Shalonda Mack. Thank you for having me tonight.
You know, no problem, Miss Shalonda. I got your back. I got your back. So I want to shout out our social medias, guys. On Facebook at the Radioactive Podcast. Also the Instagram at Radioactive_podcast. YouTube, Radioactive Podcast. You guys subscribe and like and everything. Do everything. Oh, also shout out to our sponsors, Past That, and also Madhouse with Randall Tripp. All right, Miss Ma'am, how you doing today?
I am doing well. I'm very tired, but I'm it's a good tired.
Yeah.
It's a productive tired.
So I want to start it off with a little game today. And this game's it's called Act the Fool or Let It Ride.
Okay, let's go with this icebreaker. I'm good.
Okay, so if you heard another parent talking about your child.
I think I'm gonna let it ride because I really don't care.
Yeah, okay. If you seen someone posing as a vet, getting money and so forth. You gonna let that ride?
Hey,
that's none of my business.
So, you know,
Okay. So you got some brand new shoes that you plan on returning, and somebody stepped on.
Okay, I'm acting fool. That got something to do with me.
Okay. Seeing your child get into a fight with another child.
I'm probably gonna whip the other child's ass.
Oh,
I'm just saying.
Oh man. Okay. So, Missy, we brought you here for a reason today.
Yes, you did.
I'm wondering, do you mind sharing your story with us today?
Like the whole thing?
I'm talking the whole thing.
Oh man. All right, cool. So I started a nonprofit called Loves. It's called stands for Lone Victim to Empower Survivor. And it came from basically it was one main situation, but it was a bunch of little situations as well. But the main reason why I was medically retired from the Air Force for PTSD, for MST, which is military sexual trauma, was an incident that happened a few years ago. I was stationed in Germany, married at the time. My husband and I were going through crazy drama. But I'm gonna try and go through the story fast because it's a long story, right?
Okay.
But no, so we were arguing, and this was when I was angry back in the day, super angry. Now I'm just nonchalant. I don't really care about much unless you hit me in my face or something. But But yeah, no. So we were arguing at the time. The police were called, and when you're stationed in Germany, military police is called. So they came out, and I was on a suspended bus at the time. So if I did one more thing wrong, they was going to take my stripe away. And I had 4 stripes. So in the Air Force, that means you're a staff sergeant, and it's the next level from being an airman. I was a senior airman for a long time, which I enjoyed it because you could be I don't really know versus, you're a sergeant now, you should know everything. So I'm in the middle of that. But I worked really hard for my 4th stripe, and then I bought a Mercedes, as a, congratulation thing. So if I did one more thing wrong, I would have gotten my stripe taken away and pretty much kicked out the military. So, we were sad, or I was oh no, the police are here. So my husband at the time was just be quiet, I'm gonna talk to him, we're gonna get him up out of here, just don't say nothing. I was okay, bet. So even though we argued, we knew what to do. Okay, calm it down, let's get rid of them, and then maybe we'll go back to arguing, whatever. Actually, we had went to sleep, and then they knocked on the door. But yeah, so they came, and I was wearing his shirt at the time, so it was a long t-shirt. I'm at home, so I can wear what the hell I want. It was a female cop and a male cop, and it was glass everywhere. I told you I was crazy, so I was breaking glass, just going crazy, So they was well, what happened? And he was nothing happened. We're good. She just fell and broke a glass. Mind you, this wasn't just one bottle. It was glass everywhere. I took a bat to his laptop and everything. That was nowhere near like that anymore. But I was very, very angry. Anyway, so well, they were well, it doesn't look like, we got a domestic dispute call. And when we get those calls, we have to talk to both parties involved. Now, mind you, we were drunk as hell, like drunk, right?
Mhm.
Especially me. So I was like, oh, Lord. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, let me not say that. So I didn't say anything. Like, I was just like, I don't know what happened. And they're like, well, you got to know what happened because you were here. I was like, well, I don't know. So they kind of like separated us and tried to, get the information out. But I was like, no, I'm not. We just, stuck to our guns.
Mhm.
So protocol is that your first sergeant comes out and they respond to that type of call, right?
Mhm.
So my ex-husband's first sergeant was drunk that night. So he sent a replacement first sergeant and then another first sergeant. So it was 2 first sergeants for him. And then my first sergeant came by himself
Mhm.
in his uniform, senior master sergeant. And so I just remember being really upset and wanting to leave. And they're like, you can't, we got to figure out what's going on. So everything was a bit hazy, but I do remember my first sergeant pulling me aside and asking me like, hey, like you can talk to me, what really happened? And I was like, nothing really happened. Like we just got into an argument. It's really not a big deal.
Mhm.
He was like, well, you can get in trouble for this. And I was like, I don't know how I can get in trouble if I didn't tell y'all anything. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So he was like, okay, well, we'll just figure it out and I'll try and help you, blah, blah, blah. I was like, cool, bet. So, again, protocol is for the 2 parties to be separated.
Mhm.
I didn't hear him personally say anything, but they were like, y'all got to clean the glass up. And once y'all clean up the glass and we'll separate y'all, like meaning you got to go somewhere else and you got to go somewhere else. So we clean up the glass. I remember upstairs, I was cleaning the glass and my first sergeant was up there and my ex-husband was up there. And I did not hear what my first sergeant said because, again, I was drinking or whatever. So I'm cleaning up. And then a few days later, my ex-husband said something like, he said something very inappropriate at the time when we were up there. I didn't hear it. So I just remember the female cop was like, you need to put some clothes on. I'm like, girl, if you don't stop talking to me, like I'm already mad y'all here. Like, get up out of here. I can wear what I want, right?
Right.
So, anyway, so his first sergeant had him outside of the house,
Mhm.
and then my first sergeant had me in the house and was talking, right? And then they were like, well, we need to figure out what we're going to do. I had an apartment outside of the house because we were like separated, but kind of not really. We were separated at the time, my husband and I. So he was like, well, you have our daughter this week, so you could just stay here because that was his house. It was our house, but I moved out. So he was like, just stay here and get some rest and we'll just figure everything out tomorrow. And I was like, cool, because like we know how to come together and like when it's a crisis mode. So so all I remember is the house being completely silent, right?
Mhm.
My daughter is sleeping in her room and sorry. And I thought everybody was gone, right? Like, it's dark. Everybody's gone, right? And so, I haven't really said like the details of the story in a long time. Okay. So
it's okay. It's okay. You take your time if you need to. However.
No, it's cool. So I went back downstairs to make sure the door was locked, even though the door locks on its own in Germany. But I just wanted to make sure everything was good before I actually like laid down and went to sleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, excuse me. Okay. So my first sergeant was there still, and I was like, oh, okay.
So your husband left.
Yeah,
everybody else left.
The first sergeant took him to my apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Like they drove him to my apartment, which was like 25 minutes away. And my first sergeant was still there. And so he was sitting down on the couch. I remember the couches exactly. They were ugly blue couches that I hated. But I was sitting on like the love seat, and he was sitting on like the 3. It was like this. He was sitting on this couch. I'm sitting on this couch, like all the way on this side, and he's just sitting in the middle. And he's like, so, let's talk about what happened. I'm like, okay, because I'm thinking it's a regular first sergeant spill. I'm used to getting in trouble. And usually my first sergeants will talk to me, like they'll give you like that, you need to stop doing this, that type of spill. So I figured that's what it was. So I was like, okay, I guess I have to listen to this. Maybe he'll tell me what's the next step or whatever like that, which he started doing. And so he was like, you can get in trouble. You need to stop doing stuff like this, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, well, I didn't tell you that I did anything. So, I don't understand why we're here. I understand that y'all had to get called out, but y'all don't know the details. He was like, well, at this point, I can tell the commander anything I want. And I was just like, oh, okay, well, again, I didn't do anything, so whatever. So he said he's just sitting there. I know we were just sitting there talking or whatever, and then he's like, okay, well, yeah. And so I'm like, yeah, like it was like that awkwardness, like why are you still here type thing. So I'm like, literally I remember this verbatim. I said, so don't you got to get home to your family? Like it was like 2:00 in the morning at this point. He was like, oh no, they're fine. And I'm like, the fuck? Like what? What you mean they fine? Go home, get out of my house. So, but he's my first sergeant, my first sergeant. So I can't tell him that because that's, we get in trouble for saying anything disrespectful to anybody in our chain of command. So I'm just sitting there like, okay. So I'm like, he's like, well, and he kept like insinuating, like, I mean, you can get in trouble for this. Basically kept saying that over and over again. I was like, okay. So he's like, eventually he was like, well, I want something. And I was like, I literally was like, you want some water? I literally got up and got one of the Starbucks mugs that my ex-husband was collecting from different places. And I put some water in it and I handed it to him like, I don't know what you want, So, and I go sit back down and he's like, well, thanks for the water, but that's not really what I was talking about. And I'm just like, what? So he was like, well, ever since like I met you, I thought you were really pretty. And I was just like, oh shit, are we really about to go here right now? Like you really in my house, in my family house talking to me like this? So
mind you, you're still in the long t-shirt?
I'm still in the long t-shirt. Okay. I'm still drunk, but I mean, obviously I had to sober up because of everything that was going on, but it's just like, I'm extremely tired. And so he was like, well, basically he was like, if you don't basically sleep with me right now, I'm going to tell the commander that you abuse your husband, y'all are filthy. All the glass here was your fault and everything. Like he was just saying all this stuff.
So blackmail pretty much? Like
abuse of power. So, and he just kept going. He was like, I know that you have your kids to take care of. And like, if you get kicked out the military, I'm not really sure what you're going to do because you're about to get divorced, all this other kind of stuff. Right. So I'm just like, what the fuck? So it was horrible. I pretty much blacked out, but I did it because I was so scared. And I was just like, I don't want to get kicked out of the military. And like, who's going to believe me over him? Like he's a first sergeant. He's a white man. He has like 3 more stripes or 4 more, whatever it is, had way more stripes than me. So I got scared and I was just like, fuck it, just get out the way, So I did. And then when it was done, I was like, hey, I'll take the condom from you. He's like, no, I'm gonna keep it on. And so he kept it on. And then when I was like, okay, I'm like, are you gonna leave now? He's like, I'm leaving. I'm walking to the door. And I remember specifically, he had the door, like I was at the door trying to close it. And he was like, just remember, like, you can lose everything. And like, I was just like, okay. Like, I just wanted him to leave. I was like, okay. He was like, so yeah, like he didn't say things. He would just like insinuate them and stuff. So I was like, and I was scared as shit. I was like, oh my God, my daughter's upstairs. So I'm like, okay, if I say no, I really don't know what's going to happen. Either he's going to get violent or he's going to tell my commander some dumb shit or both. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, you know what, just do it and get out of here. So that's what he did. And then I remember the next day, that night when I went to bed, I just was like, what just happened? Like, I'm like, what happened? I didn't even change. I didn't shower. I didn't do anything. I just laid there and was like so confused, like the rest of the night. And I finally fell asleep. And then the next morning, I got ready for work or whatever. And I still felt uneasy about everything. So I went to the SARC office. That's like your sexual assault response coordinator office or whatever. And I was talking to the lady. I told her what happened. She was just like, oh my God. And I'm like, yeah. She was like, well, you got 2 options. You can either, 1, do a reported, or what's it called? I can't remember. Oh, a restricted report, meaning if you tell us, that's it. It's going to be on file. There's not going to be any investigation. That's it. And I was like, and she said, unrestricted. That means we got to get everybody involved. It's going to be an investigation. We might have to go to trial. Like, it's going to be a lot crazier if you do an unrestricted report. And I was like, oh my God. Cause like, it's crazy. Right. So I'm like, let me think about it for a few days. And she was like, well, where are your panties that you had on that night? I was like, I don't know, on the floor. And she was like, well, you need to put it in a paper bag in case you change your mind. I was like, why? He wore a condom. She was like, trust me, just do it. So I did it. I put the panties, they were pink. I put them in a paper bag and I put them in my safe in my apartment. And remember the next day I told, I called my ex-husband over to my apartment and I told him what happened. He was pissed.
Mm-hmm.
Like he had to leave and go take a long walk. Cause it was like, you kind of left me, not that it was his choice, but you left me for that to happen. But that's what he blamed himself. I'm like, no, that's not like, you didn't have a choice, whatever. So, basically, fast forward, I had a trip already planned to Barcelona. Everything was already paid for. I was like, I'm gonna go on this trip. I'm gonna just try and like clear my mind, whatever. And then I came back and I was like, you know what? I felt like he was way too comfortable with this. And I feel like either he's done it before or he's gonna do it to someone else. So that was the main thing that drove me to like, let's do this shit. Like, let's
case it.
Let's do it, But I was scared. And, the lady was like, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be happening if you do this. So I was like, let's do it. So I remember in the meantime, she was like, don't talk to anybody. We're going to work on some things. And then we're going to call you back to the OSI office. So I remember he had called me to his office and I was just like,
the actual guy?
Yeah. My first sergeant called me to his office. And so I went there. And he had closed the door.
Oh no.
And he's just like looking at me, literally just looking at me. I'm just like, I'm like scared. I'm like, does he know? Like, you're like paranoid and stuff. So he began to say things like, what was he talking about? He just was talking small talk, stuff. I'm just like, I don't care. I want to leave. I was really, really uncomfortable. And so I can't remember. I don't know what exactly we were talking about. All I know, it had nothing to do with anything. And then I remember I finally was able to leave. Then my chief had stopped me and said something about training. And I was like, yes, sir, I'll get it to you. And I wanted to leave. But, you're not really supposed to like, when your chief stops you to talk to you, you're supposed to like stop and listen. I was just like, okay, yes, sir. I'm trying to leave, So then as I'm walking down the hallway, my first sergeant comes out of his office. And like, he doesn't he touches me and like kind of moves me into like this empty room, and it has a bunch of furniture in it. So I guess it was like they were storage or something like that. So he like literally has me in this dark room and I'm just like, yo, what? Like, I want to leave. So he's like, he does this with his phone. He's like, cause I was IT. So he's like, I need you to help me on my phone. I don't think that it works. And I'm like, okay. And he like pulls up the pictures that he took at my house of all the glass and stuff. And he was like, I just want to make sure that these pictures are right because, I still have them. And I'm just like, okay. So I was like, all right. So he was like, yeah, so I want to do another home visit with you. And I was like, no, I'm good. So then after that happened, I immediately went over to the office. It was like, oh, hell no. So they put me in a hotel on base under the chaplain's name so he couldn't find me. So I wasn't even at home. I was scared. I was hiding in the hotel office, the hotel. They even switched cars with my husband at the time because everyone knew that I had a purple Mercedes. So, my car.
What was your child at this point when they was doing all
this? So my
switching?
son was living with my mom in Jacksonville, Florida. And then my daughter was with him. So he was like, he definitely, he did what he had to do. So it was great. So I was in the hotel for a few days. And then I remember that I got called to the OSI office. And the entire day, because in Germany, it's illegal to record people without their knowledge. So they had to call back to, I guess the Pentagon, and it took all day, but they finally got an approval for a wiretap, right? But before that, they had me call him on the phone with them standing there listening. And they're like, we can't record him, but we can listen and we can write down or whatever. So I called him and I was like, hey, I need to talk to you. And he's like, well, I'm really busy. And I remember like exactly what happened. He's like, I have 543 airmen under me. And I was like, well, you didn't sleep with all 543 women. And he just was like, went quiet. And he was like, I'm gonna call you later, and hung up. And so the OSI agent, that's good. At least he didn't say no. We know that something happened. I was like, oh, you damn right something happened. But so they finally got the wire approval. He, told me I could come to his office. This is on a Friday. Everybody went home. Everybody, right? And so I go to his office. I'm scared as hell. But OSI agents are following my car, well, my ex-husband's car, in their car right behind me, right? So I go up to the office or I go to the building. The whole time the wire is on, like it's on, right?
You have a wire on.
I have a
you
wire
undercover.
on me. It was crazy. I
Okay.
was so scared because I'm like, what if he finds it?
Mm-hmm.
So they, you know, I pull up, I walk up to the building, someone's leaving, and I'm like, oh, how you doing? You know, trying to be all casual because I know how to put on a good face pretty much. You have to learn that in the military. So I go up to his office, and literally when I walk in his office, he's like the only person. Well, it was one other lady in like another office. She's like the admin or whatever. So I knew she was there. So I was like, okay, that's kind of good, but I don't know if she's gonna leave. So I walk into his office, and like the first thing I see is his computer screen, and it has the SART page up on his computer.
Ugh.
And I was like,
he knows.
That's what I was thinking, right? I'm like, he knows. I'm like, I'm about to get caught. My hands are so. I was like, but I had to play it cool because I had to get out of him, like get him to confess basically on you know the wire. So I sit down. He's like, I'm just going through a hard time, and I'm just like, oh, you know, like not really talking. I'm just like, okay. He's like, yeah, I think I'm gonna go check myself into mental health, and I was like, okay, like okay, you're like, all right. So then I wanted to, I guess in my brain, I'm like, okay, I need to make him calm down so I can get him to open up, right? So I make up some dumb story about how I need help with my landlord, right? And so he calls my boss or my N2IC at the time, and he's still at work, and he's on the phone having my speaker, and he's like, yeah, she said she needed this, she said she needed that, and he was like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, we can help her, it's no problem, we got it. And he was like, yeah, because she's really bright, and like just overly complimenting me. Okay, and I'm just like, okay, this is so weird and awkward, you know. I'm like, and I know, you know, my boss, you know, he's real cool, but he's like, okay, I don't really care, like get off the phone. That's the type of word. So anyway, so he gets off the phone and he's like, so that's taken care of, blah, blah, blah. And so I don't know exactly how it was brought up, but I just remember him saying, we brought it, I don't know how we brought it up, but all I know is that when I said what happened, he whispered, and he was like, I'm sorry. That's what he whispered it because he kept coming. It was funny because he kept coming around the desk to my phone and clicking on my phone to see if I was recording. He was like, you know, he was like, are you recording? I'm like, no, I'm not recording. What would I be recording? Like trying to, you know, play it off. I'm like, please don't check me because I am recording, but my phone isn't recording. So, so when he was like, I'm sorry, I was just like, okay. And he was like, well, I have to go to my family. He moves me over to show me his picture of his wife and kids. He's like, yeah, I got to go to a soccer field, a soccer game or whatever. And I was like, okay. So I leave, and the lady stops me, and we're talking or whatever, and he follows me over there. And so I'm like, at this point, I'm like, is he gonna follow me literally all the way out the building? Doesn't do it. Good. OSI agents literally after I leave go in and get him. Like the same, like right after I leave, they're going in to get him, to take him to OSI, right? And so they did. And then they asked him about stuff, and he basically lied to OSI. He was like, yeah, I don't know exactly what he lied about. He said something different to our commander that he said to OSI. I don't remember exactly what it is, but I know that it was two different things, right? So all that happened. After everything was going on, I was afraid. Literally the only 3 times that I had met him before that, it was all professional. He never came off as unprofessional. He never gave me, you get a vibe that you can tell someone's attracted to you or something like that. Never happened with him. I just was like, oh, he's a cool first sergeant. He's asking me about the places around here because he's new here and telling me, I think one time he hand delivered a letter to me at my job, and I'm like on the other side of the base. So I was like, oh, thanks. He was like, I could be coming here, so I wanted to give you the letter. I was like, cool, thanks. All right. So anyway, fast forward a few weeks, I'm like, we're all going through the whole investigation thing, and they're like, listen, if you're uncomfortable, you can leave Germany, right? And I was like, you know what? Yes, because every time I saw a whatever, it was a silver minivan I think he drove, I was freaking out. Every time I was like, I need to go. Like, I can't do this no more. I was drinking, cutting my arm up all the time because it was just so painful. Like, that was like a release for me. And they're like, oh, Black people don't do that stuff. I'm like, listen, leave me alone.
So was it suicidal, or was it?
No. It was more so it's like a release of pain. Like, okay. I was so overwhelmed. It was just like, 'cause I'm going through a divorce, Well, really, at the time, that kind of brought us together a little bit, but he was so hurt about everything. And for me, I was just like over life, period. So a year later, I got stationed at Lackland. Everyone treated me like I was, like, oh my God, don't talk to her because, or they talked to me, but it was like, treat her like she's fragile. I'm like, just give me some work or something. So I would just be in the bathroom all day, literally on the toilet, falling asleep. I was like, I can't deal with y'all. So a year later, they called me back to Germany, and I had everyone with me, my friends, my ex-husband came so we can testify in court, right? I feel like the night that it happened and the trial was like the most traumatizing thing I've ever gone through in my life. And they told me, they was like, do not go in there while other people are testifying because it's going to be very hard. And I was like, nah, I need to know what's going on. So when they first started talking to me, they were like, yeah, I don't think we're going to win this case. And they're like, why? It's like, because she's like completely detached from everything. I'm like, you damn right I am. It's been a whole year. I didn't get therapy like that. And like, I didn't learn how to cope with things. So I was just avoiding them in the most horrible ways, drinking, like I said, cutting my arm. I was an inpatient. I took a bunch of pills one night because I just wanted to go to sleep. And I was like, I don't even care if I wake up or not, because it was a lot, right? So you go through the trial, he's there. That was my first time seeing him in like a year. And I'm just like, oh my God, it was like crazy. So the 3 charges that they had was lying to OSI, unprofessional relationship, and sexual assault. I really wanted to get him on sexual assault because there was another young lady that was there, and he tried to do the same thing to her. Black girl, going through a divorce and in trouble in the military. Same type that, he was a predator. And that's what sexual, if you register as a sex offender, it's because you're a predator. So, but they didn't let her testify because he didn't actually do it. And we were like, that's so dumb. So anyway, so he was found guilty on 2 out of the 3. And I felt like even
Which 2?
On the lying to OSI and unprofessional relationship. And they felt like they couldn't prove sexual assault. And we're just like, because the only thing that they played was the wiretap. That was it. They didn't ask me about anything else. The entire trial was, my testimony was just the wiretap. And I'm like, that's crazy because so much other stuff happened that will show you that this guy was like, but they don't let you talk. They ask you a question and you answer it. His defense attorney was ruthless. Like I would mess up and I'm like, I know I meant to say, and they're like, no, we don't care. You already said what you said. That's how they were talking to me in court. I was like, what? So, I will go in, I will watch my friends testify. And I know to this day, I'm not friends with one or whatever, because, we were talking and I told her what happened. And when she was on the stand, she was like, I don't really remember, but I think she told me this, whatever. So protocol is your first sergeant, if he responds to something like that, he has to bring another first sergeant. So one, you came alone knowing that his other first sergeant friend lived like on the same block as him. He could have called him to come with him. And that first sergeant testified on the stand and was like, yeah, because he could call me and I would have came with him. Like he told me what happened. He was like, this girl she's so in trouble all the time. She's ghetto and loud and just a horrible worker. And she offered to give me a blowjob and stuff. I was like, that never happened. And now I'm ghetto. Okay, great. So anyway, so everything happened. They read the verdict. They say he was guilty. And his wife was there and it was just crazy. So I was happy that because they took his stripes all the way down to Sea Airman. So of course he got kicked out. He lost like $1 million on his retirement. And it was good. And the whole point I have to keep reminding myself is that I did what I intended to do, which was he does not have that power anymore to do that to another girl, especially a black girl, because that's who he was targeting. So it's like he doesn't have that power. I did what I was supposed to do, and it is what it is. So yeah, that's a long story. I tried to make it short, but
no. So tell me, what exactly was going through your mind when you sat there? You had to, because we're going back at the time. What was going through your mind when you had to sit there and watch him open the condom and place the condom on? Like, what was going through your mind at that moment?
Oh wow, you're getting deep. Okay. Well, honestly, like I said, I really blacked out. I really did. It was just like the thing was like, just get through this.
Fight or flight type of situation?
It was just like, just get through it. So it is. Yeah, I don't remember all that. I just know that it was there. I know that he kept it on afterwards. He even left with it still on him. So I guess maybe he thought that if I took it,
you would have evidence.
And it's funny because my underwear came back with semen DNA. So, and I didn't think that was going to happen because he had a condom on. So I guess what I want to tell everybody, especially women who stuff like that happens to, like, keep your underwear because it's possible to get it, like that kind of DNA from if you're ever in that situation, God forbid. But put your underwear in a paper bag. If it's not in a paper bag, it's going to be inadmissible in court for sure. That's what they were trying to get me on. They were like, oh, well, she probably went to his house while he was, at night, and maybe he ejaculated somewhere and she stole the napkin and rubbed it in her pants. Everybody was like, that is stupid. Mm. So they're like, no, this happened. You can't deny that happened. So yeah, it was horrible.
So in the process of reporting him, did you feel like, was there a time where they made you feel like they didn't believe you?
Oh yeah, all the time. All the time. My commander, even though he was, I guess, supposed to be the commander, they're all, they're the chain of command. Right. They're all friends. So that's why it was so secretive. Like they couldn't, usually when it's unrestricted, they tell everyone like, hey, this is an open investigation, but they didn't want to do that because they didn't want the commander to know and then tell him, hey, this is happening so he could change the story. So it was a very different case for them.
Why do you think they didn't test that DNA that was in the panties?
You said why didn't they?
Yeah, why do you think they didn't?
No, they did.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, they did, and it came back as semen.
As his, or?
Yeah, of course, his.
And it matched and everything.
Yep.
But they still thought it was consensual or something?
You know what? They unprofessional relationship. The defense was saying that they think that I had consensual sex with him, and because the female cop, I guess the female cop said that I told her that I broke glass or something like that, which I never did. That was their defense. So well, she knew she was going to get in trouble. And I'm like, no, when I was on the stand, I was like, no, I did not know I was going to get in trouble because we did not tell, them anything. So he just came up with his own little story.
So when people say, or when you say, I don't remember the details and so forth, how do people react and respond to that?
You know what? It's crazy because people who haven't been put in that situation, you can't really judge it because most women that go through something like that, women or men, when you go through something like that, your brain really does go into survival mode and you're just like, just get it done. Or if it's happening to you forcefully, or just think about something else, because that's not the first time something has happened to me. It's my brain is mm-hmm. So I don't really care because I know that most rape victims or sexual assault, they don't remember anyway because they really do black out. So
how did you know who to trust when it came to reporting him? Or you just went straight
I went straight to the office. I mean, I told my husband at the time, but I definitely went straight to the office. I didn't really tell too many people. They actually told me not to, so.
Do you think it was harder to report him because he was higher in rank?
Oh, yes. That's actually what she told me. She was like, you're a young black girl who is in trouble in the military, and he is who he is. It's like David versus Goliath. Mm-hmm. You're going against a giant. Mm-hmm. So you need to think about this, which is why it took me a few days to really do I want this kind of scrutiny? Do I want to go through this? And I'm like, yeah, I need to stop him.
You're right.
So if I got to be the one, I will.
So at the end of the day, did you blame the military?
I didn't blame the military for his actions. I did blame the military for how they treated me afterwards.
How'd they treat you?
When I got here, it was ridiculous. My supervisor, who was a woman, was treating me like I was just this fragile being that, she wasn't very sympathetic or nice at all.
Really?
No, not
she knew what had happened to you.
She knew exactly what happened to me. She knew why. I know when I was on the way here, it was I think it was July 4th weekend or whatever, and I hadn't seen my son in a while because he was in Philly with my mom. So I was like, well, there's no point in me coming because no one's going to be on the base for the whole, that weekend. So I asked her, I was like, hey, is it okay if I'm already in Baltimore. My family from Philly is going to come pick me up so I can spend a couple of days with my son. And she's like, no, you need to come straight here. And I'm just like, why? I'm gonna come straight there to sit in a hotel for 2 days when I could be with my family and my son. Mm-hmm. She was like, no. So I was like, oh, hell no. So I called my SARC. She was like, let me call the first sergeant over there and everything. And he called me. He was like, "You're good. You can stay there, and we'll see you when you get here." That's the type of person. So when I got there, the first sergeant and her, they picked me up and from the airport, and she just from there, I don't know what it was, but she just did not like me. And I'm just like, yo, what the? So I asked for like a year straight, please get this from like she tried to friend me on Facebook. I was like, block, like I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to know you. Like you're mean, like, and I don't know why. So I'm just like, okay, cool.
Do you think rape culture is normalized in the military?
They're trying to make it where it's not normal. They're trying, and they have these classes and stuff like that. But honestly, it's so normal in the military. It's so sad. Like you still have all these like crazy things that happen. And even still, they're like, oh, it's okay to go to mental health. It's okay to, to report. But when you do, it's like, oh, she's going to mental health again. Don't give her work. Or she's always gone. Like literally, I had appointments all the time because for one, I was getting medically retired, but I had individual therapy. I had cognitive behavioral therapy and group therapy all at the same time. And they're like, well, she's always gone. She don't do no work. So of course you keep saying that. I'm really not going to do no work. Like whatever. I have to go to therapy. I have to take care of myself. So that's just how they are.
When the rape had happened, were you already in the process of getting out, or you was just on your last straw?
No, I wasn't in the process of getting out.
Okay.
We were supposed to stay in Germany for another year or something. I had tickets to Beyonce and Rihanna. I had to give those away or sell them or whatever. So yeah, no, it was definitely in the military.
Did you feel safe in the military afterwards?
Like after I got out?
No, after the situation.
Oh no, because I never knew where he could be. He could have came to Lackland. You could find anybody in the military. So I didn't know his mindset because I don't know him. He's literally a stranger to me. And so I don't know what his mindset was. I don't know if he would, even to this day, I'll go on a plane. If I see someone that looks like him, I'm like, oh shit. Like I have to like stare a little bit harder to make sure it's not him. So, it's not ever going to go away.
Did the stigma of mental health, did that cause people to treat you differently?
Like
being the trauma that you were going through and so forth.
They definitely treat me differently. Like I said, my supervisor, my friends were very, very supportive at the time, but it's like you feel very alone and isolated because it's like you went through something and you don't know how to talk to people. I lost quite a few friends because I isolated myself from everybody, even especially the people that were involved. So, I mean, I'm still friends with some of them, but a few of them I can't forgive. I remember the one girl, she came, she was supposed to be testifying for me, and she's just like, oh my God, I don't want to be here. I feel like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. And I'm like, girl, like I put myself in her shoes. I'm like, if that was me and I had to testify for you, I wouldn't be acting like that. I would be like, hey, are you okay? How are you? It wasn't nothing. I was consoling her. I'm like, girl, this ain't about you.
Well, what about today? Now, do you understand what she felt? Being, what I'm saying? Do you understand a little bit more better now?
I understand. Not her, no.
So you still feel the same way? Yeah, like I still would have been there.
Yeah, because I would have. Like, if I have to testify in court to save a friend or help a friend or whatever, I'm going to do that. And I guess, I don't know if that's their personality. Don't really care at this point anymore. But at the end of the day, you're supposed to be there for your friend. It's not like I was crying and calling her all the time. It was just like, I told you what happened. Just go on the stand and tell them exactly what I told you. It's not that hard. Maybe that's me being sensitive. I don't know. But if I needed you at the time, you're supposed to be there.
Did you feel alone in that whole process?
I would say I did feel alone. I did feel alone. It was I couldn't talk to my parents. And I just felt like no one understood what I was going through. Because it was like, okay, yeah, people, they get raped, they get sexually assaulted. But I felt like, at the time, I'm literally a Black girl going up against a powerful white man. Like, where does that end with a good, like a good story? Like, I don't know.
Did anybody blame you?
I blame me.
Really?
I totally blame me. I blame myself for a few years. Definitely did.
And what was that blame like? What did you tell yourself?
I will always be like just randomly thinking, I'm like, I could have did this different. I could have did that different. Like the night of in trial, I was like, the night of, I could have just told him no and just dealt with the consequences. Maybe my commander would have believed me, maybe he wouldn't. I know he wouldn't have, but still, like, you know, if I got kicked out, I got kicked out. Or, you know, now or at the trial, I could have like tried to get them to talk about the other stuff that would have made, you know, shown that he was, you know, a predator or whatever. But I used to always blame myself, but it wasn't, you know, it wasn't my fault. So
Do you feel once you reported it that the military tried to push you out?
No,
No.
I pushed me out. I
Okay,
told
so it was all your choice.
Yeah, I was like, y'all need to get me out of here because I can't do this no more. I can't see these older white men in their uniforms knowing that they do this all the time. And now that I've gone through it and I see how bad I feel, I don't want nobody else going through that. And I don't like that this is even a thing. And nobody really, like, they're powerful and no one's going to tell them that they can't, right? And people are afraid to stand up to them.
So when did you tell your parents?
I really don't know exactly when. I just know that it wasn't the best, or it wasn't the ideal response. I don't want to like talk crap about my parents, but I know for a fact my mother had gone through something very, very traumatic when she was 17. So it's very hard for her to talk to me. I remember I called her and I can't talk to you about this. Like, I was like, okay, well, cool. You know, like, I don't know.
How'd that make you feel?
It made me feel crappy. I'm just like, you know, like
alone.
You're my mom, you know. But my mom is now a board of director on me with my nonprofit. So yeah,
okay,
she owns part of the company.
So what? You said there was one other victim. Were there more victims?
We don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do you know what happened to him today? Do you know where he's at? Not necessarily where he's at today. What do you think he's just?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe he's still in Germany. I don't know. Maybe. I have no idea. All I know is I feel like he probably feels like I ruined his career, his life. And I don't know what kind of, like, you know, revenge or vendetta he got. So it's always going to be like that. It's like some Kill Bill type shit. Like, I'm coming after you. And I'm like,
so you always going to be paranoid?
Always going to be paranoid. Every time I travel, don't matter where I go, I'm always paranoid.
Did other male soldiers or other sergeants in his same, did they treat you differently in a negative way?
No. I think because some of them knew that he was a piece of crap, and it's weird because, you know, they don't talk about that. But then when it happened, I did get like a couple, like even his own friend testified against him. You know, and it's like, you know, this is what he said about her, and I didn't think it was right. He was like, he could have easily called me. You know, so I didn't even know that man. I didn't even know he was a witness, and he came and did that. I was like, thank you. Like, you know what I mean? Thank you.
So you was completely surprised at that.
Yeah, I was so surprised that another white man, you know, went against him, you know, for my battle. So it's just like, that's crazy. This is probably like the only really good thing that came out of the trial is like, I felt like there's a teeny tiny, like 2% hope. Not that much though.
So were you into women before this experience, or did this experience push you towards women? Were you into women before this that happened, or did that experience push you towards women?
No, that experience did not push me towards women. No experience pushed me towards women. I think I'm with a woman now because I get everything that I want from another human being. I don't really like.
So it has nothing to do with that experience?
No, nothing. Like, at the end of the day, I do feel like men, I don't want to sound like Kate Michelle, but, you know, men are not that good, you know what I mean? But I feel a lot safer, and I feel safer emotionally, physically, spiritually with a woman because you know, she understands, you know, what I've gone through, and she's very sensitive to that. So I feel comfortable.
How long did it take you to start trusting men after that?
Oh, am I trusting men now? No, I'm kidding. No, you know what's crazy? It's like, I feel like all my protectors really weren't protecting me at the time. So I definitely grown like this whole resentment towards Black men, right? So I would go after, or I would talk to Black men who weren't good for me. And I knew they weren't good for me because of the way they talked to me and the way they treated me. And I felt like that's what I deserved because of, you know, what happened. It's so bad because I knew that, you know, they were shitty. I knew that. And I was just like, you know what? Obviously, look what I went through. Obviously, I'm not strong enough to say no to, or, you know, stand up for myself. Like, this is what I deserve. I was in a whole pity party, and I let, it's.
Did you feel broken?
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's what it was.
Definitely broken. That was like the lowest point in my life.
How did that situation affect your sex drive?
My sexuality?
No, your sex drive, period.
Oh yeah, no, it's pretty much like, I would say it's kind of non-existent. Which is like, that's when all that happened. Even after I had like maybe I had 2 boyfriends after I was divorced from my husband, and I was just like, y'all are trash, like, y'all trash. And it's like, because at the end of the day, I'm very transparent. I tell, who I'm going to be with, that what happened to me, right? And so I know one of the guys that I was with, he knew what happened to me because I told him. And I remember we were sitting on the couch watching a movie, and he was like, hey, I want you to give me a blowjob. And I'm like, no. And he literally, no kidding, stood up, pulled his penis out, and like jammed it into my face. And I was like, yo, get out of my house. Yes. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, no, I just, what I went through. And so I feel like men, they're not really sensitive. They don't understand. And I do know that I have a few of my female friends who told me, like, they go through the same thing, but they found someone who understood that. And I know one of them, she was telling me that her husband's very sensitive. Like, if they're watching a movie and there's like a rape scene on, he'll turn it off, ask her if she's okay. That did not happen with me. And I know it was my choice, and men, that's fine. But, I just feel like I get more emotional stability and patience from my girlfriend. So, yeah.
What do you think would happen if you ran into this man today?
Something, I probably would just run. I'm not gonna lie, I would just run. Yeah? I wouldn't, yeah.
You wouldn't try to kill him?
He's a big guy. Like,
really?
He's huge. Like, I was scared of him that night. He's big, like tall, big. So, like, I would run.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm afraid. It's just,
it would be a trigger, though. It would be, I ain't gonna lie, you wouldn't be wrong for being afraid. Like, it would be a trigger in a sense.
Oh yeah, it's a trigger, but I'm not afraid. It's just more so like I've grown so much. I don't have nothing to say to him. I don't have anything to say to him. He was wrong. He lost his career. If I see him today, I'm gonna just walk the other way. I mean, of course, after that, I'm probably gonna call my girlfriend or someone and be like, "Oh my God," but I'm not gonna give him no type of power to see me, in any kind of distress. I won. So,
did any of his family reach out to you?
No, honestly, I think that his wife created a fake account one time and like just going crazy on my Facebook page. So yeah, I don't know if it was his wife. Someone that was on his side was going crazy on my Facebook page. Like, all my friends was going off on that account.
Do you feel about victims who how do you feel about victims who take settlement payments?
Oh, goodness gracious.
Remember Ma said that seems like prostitution.
No, I seen that. I saw that. I definitely saw that. And I don't agree that it's prostitution, because prostitution, you kind of consent. Well, you do consent to the physical act. Rape, you don't consent to that. So I would say for the ones who got a settlement, because we actually just watched a porn documentary last night, and it was like, if they took a settlement, it's because they weren't strong enough to fight. They tried to give me not money, but they tried to like say, hey, he's gonna plead guilty to this, but not the other two. And I was like, no, like, he did something to me. We gonna fight and we're gonna get what we need to do. So some women may not be strong enough. They don't want to go through the trauma of trial, because it's really traumatizing. So they're probably afraid, or they just want it to be over. So they're like, just give me the money. I just want to move on with my life, whatever, so I don't blame them for that.
What's your thoughts about survivors who don't report?
I think that they were also afraid, and I would hope that they find some type of peace in their life, because it's never going to be peaceful. If you don't come forward, you're always going to have that, like, dang, like, he probably is still doing this to other people, or they probably don't care that he's doing it. They're like, he did it, whatever. It's not me anymore. I don't care. Some people have that mentality, but it's like, it's out of sight, out of mind for some of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, people know how to push trauma down for a very long time.
Mm.
And it definitely affects how you are, how you treat other people, your relationships. So my advice is always to report, no matter how afraid you are, at least, you know, you did it.
Where do you find the strength to like speak to me today?
Because I'm starting a nonprofit, I need to start speaking about it more.
Hmm.
And like I said, I've gotten a lot of growth, so I can speak about it. I can talk to anybody about it. So
Right. Well, talking about the nonprofit, tell me, because I'm pretty sure this is the reason why you started it.
Yeah,
so tell me about
definitely.
your nonprofit.
So my nonprofit started because I was, like I said before, I felt alone. I felt isolated, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now today, like I submitted 10 LLCs. I'm happy. You know, I'm working towards my goals. I'm like in like 180 completely different from what I was after what happened to me. Like that took over my life at the time. And now I'm like, man, I cannot wait for 2020. I got so much stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm in school. Like I love life,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't feel that way before. So the reason why I wanted to start the nonprofit is lone victim to empower survivor. Like you will get your life back afterwards. And I want to create that community where there are women and men who are there to help you do that. So the nonprofit is a program and there are requirements that you have to go through. Like empowered means that we're going to make sure you're doing this for yourself. You know what I mean? Like we're not just going to give you free money. You got to like show us that you're looking for, you know, if you don't have a job, whatever, we're going to make sure that you get back on your feet, you know? So that's what nonprofit is. It's also about educating the support system of a victim. How do you deal with a victim?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say one of your family members call you and tell you something happened. Are you going to know what to say to them? That's not going to trigger them. That's what we need to talk about with people. Just everyone. It's like, you can't be like, well, you shouldn't have went out, or you should have been wearing that. You should have been drinking. Like, it's not illegal for me to do these things. It was illegal for him to rape me.
Right.
So, yeah.
So what year did you start your organization, your nonprofit?
I started this year, like maybe 7-8 months ago, but finally I got an office. We're about to be 501c3 certified. So 501c3 certified. And I can't give too much detail, but we have a very, very huge project coming up, like huge. So I'm excited.
Okay. So again, what's the ultimate goal of this group, of this nonprofit?
The ultimate goal is, have you ever been to like an Alcohol Anonymous meeting?
Mm-mm.
I went with my dad before, and when you walk in, we was at a church, he just walked in, right? And it was a bunch of other alcoholics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they all just sat down. They didn't sign in. They sat down. They had donuts and stuff, you know, coffee free. And they just talked. You know, they talked about, you know, hey, I'm this many years or days or months, whatever, sober. And they all were like a support system to one another. Mm-hmm. I had that same support system in group therapy while I was in the military. When I got out the military, I ain't have nothing. Their VA sucks. I'm sorry, but the VA, y'all suck. So when I went to cosmetology school, you know, it's a bunch of women, and I actually opened up to the school, like in front of everyone, and told them what was going on. And I had so many girls come to me, like, you know, privately, and told me, you know, this happened to me. I was raped here or whatever. And I'm like, well, did you talk to someone? I always ask them, did you talk to anybody? Because it's important. They're like, no, well, we ain't got insurance. So, you know, and I'm like, that's not cool. Like, you should be able to have that access to a community of people where it's not like, oh, you got to call a 1-800 line and talk to someone on the phone or whatever. There should be somewhere where you can go like AA and be able to just sit and talk to a bunch of other people that are like you, that know not to call you crazy. I'm tired. I was so tired of people calling me crazy and all these names, you know. So it's more so of having a non-toxic environment. For free. And if you need that extra help, monetary, you know, temporary monetary relief, or you need a safe haven, there's stuff that you got to, you know, do and show us that you're doing so we can make sure you're empowered again.
So does your organization have any events coming up that you can speak
well,
of
we do
right
have
now?
an orientation for the board members, and we actually open it up to, so we have a group on Facebook. That's actually just, you know, a group of people, and then we have our page. So in the group, we have the orientation coming up, and we have 7 to 8 board members so far. But we can take help from anyone. We want to start reaching out to schools. I think it's important. It's funny because I just had a conversation yesterday at a casting call with two of my friends, and we were all talking about our kids and how we're raising our kids, right? And I'm just like, yeah, I tell my son he can't go into the men's restroom. He has to go with me, and my sister or his sister. And they're like, oh, well, did you talk to him about why? And I'm like, no, I don't want him to know that, men could, touch him inappropriately or do something to him. I don't want him to know that. And they're like, you need to tell him that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't want him to know about that stuff, but it's important. So, I want our program to be something where we're reaching out to kids, we're reaching out to men. I want men to join. I have a few men that's actually interested because that's another thing. Men don't like to talk about it.
Yes, I was going to ask you that.
Especially black men.
Has any men gave you any story? Can you tell us one of them stories? You got to say names, but
no, I won't tell stories. My ex told me that his cousin went down on him. Another ex told me that his uncle went down on him and gave him a gold watch or something afterwards. I don't know. And then I had one where he said that he was touched inappropriately. It was about three that told me. And it was crazy because it was just like, have you talked to anybody? And they're like, no. And then, like I said, they were my exes. Being in a relationship with them, I kind of like saw that still affects them. Mm-hmm. The way you treat other people, whatever you've gone through as a child or whatever, it affects how you treat other people. And I'm like, y'all need help. Like, I needed help. Everybody needs help. If you go through something traumatic, whether that be a rape or sexual assault, getting beat on as a kid, it's going to affect you as an adult, and you need to talk to someone. You need to heal. We need to heal, all of us.
Why do you think men, it's way harder for men to talk about it?
Oh, that's easy. You tell a black man tells someone, oh, you gay. Like, what? No, it's the insensitivity that this world has today. And I feel like now our generation is being a lot more open to hearing things about it. It's like, okay, if one of your guy friends came up to you and told you that happened, you're not gonna be like, oh, you gay. You know what I mean? But that was how it was before. And like, the families, you have your molesting uncle across from the dinner table at Thanksgiving or whatever, and everyone knows that he might have did something to her, but he's your uncle, so we're not gonna say nothing. Like, it's weird how we, as Black people, defend our family, knowing that
they did something wrong.
It's weird.
So to be part of the board of your nonprofit, do you have to have been through sexual assault? Mm-mm. Do you have to be prior military?
Nope. You just need to have a need to want to help. That's it.
Okay.
So, yep.
So did you ever talk to your kids about what happened to you?
No.
Not to this day.
I think my son kind of has an idea, but I never went into detail with him. As I just feel I don't want them to know about stuff, but I'm like, they need to know the dangers in the world, so they can be aware. Because if they don't know that, like me, when I went to the military, I didn't know anything bad. I didn't know nothing about rape and stuff like that. So a lot of bad things happened to me because I didn't know. And unfortunately, I thought it was normal. Okay, I'm waking up the next day and my pants and my panties are off, and I'm like, after being drunk, and I'm just like, I guess this is how this goes.
So how young should we start to have that conversation with our kids?
My son is 9. I'm about to have that conversation with him soon.
So
what would you say?
What would you say? 8, 7, 6?
Yeah, my son's 9. I would say 8. Whenever it's comfortable for you as a parent. I know when I was talking to my friends yesterday, they said that they saw signs in their kids. And that's when they knew that they needed to have that conversation. I haven't seen those signs yet, but I feel like I need to go ahead and just do it.
What would you say those signs are?
What are the signs?
Oh, goodness. Okay, so without divulging names, I know that one said that, they're watching a movie and they saw movement under the blanket from, their son, and they're like, oh my God, they did. But the important thing is to not freak out, because, it's a natural thing. That's what I learned from them. And I'm so happy that we had that conversation, because for me, if I would have seen my son doing something like that, I'm like,
doing what? Wait, doing what?
What are you doing?
Like jacking off?
Yeah, but under the covers, so you was trying to be discreet. I know one walked in actively while it was happening, and she screamed at him, but a few days later it was like, okay, this is normal, let me calm down. Just don't do it around anyone else. And so, it's always like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. My kid is like doing things that, I don't want to see, and I don't ever want to do in life, but it's going to happen. So you want them to be aware of the world, of society. People are not good people. My son now, you tell kids, don't talk to strangers. Kids will talk to strangers. They'll hear you. But I swear, if someone says to my son, oh, I got some V-Bucks for Fortnite, he'll be, come on, I'm here. Like, no, you're not supposed to talk to strangers, but they don't know any better. And they need to know that strangers are dangerous and why they're dangerous. So I'll tell my son they're bad people, or you can't talk to strangers, but they need to know why. It's hard.
Where has your nonprofit taken you? Or where has that taken you? Like people you've met, or you know what I'm saying? Even taking you places. You know what I'm saying?
My nonprofit has so far is still new, but I've met so many women that has taught me so many things about healing, about parenting, and I am just internally grateful for everyone I've met so far, right? And so we just hope that continues to grow.
What's the best advice you can give a victim?
A victim?
To get their power back, yeah.
It takes time. It definitely takes time. Be patient. Don't give up. My best advice for someone, just people, period, especially if it's a victim, be careful how you talk to them. You never know, like a simple "how are you?" that can go a long way for someone. Like a simple just talking, just caring, taking that extra step. Because I can be like, "How you doing, Acey?" And then you'd be like, "I'm good," and you keep walking. But like people really don't care about how you are. They're just saying it because it's like a formality or whatever.
So what if a person came to one of your meetings or came to you and was like, I have these urges to sexual urges towards these women, pretty much he came to you before he was at the point of raping somebody, you know what I'm saying? Or he felt this in him. Would you even have a conversation with him if he came to you like,
yeah, I almost did I would have a conversation, because at the end of the day, that would be preventing him from doing something, hopefully. And I would probably find a resource that would help him, because that's not us. But we would definitely find a resource to help him, someone he could talk to.
So you would be open to talk to him?
Of course I would be. Especially if he didn't. If he's saying I might, it's like, okay, there's something wrong with you. You need to figure out why are you feeling that way. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit down and tell you that because it's too triggering for me. But I'm going to find someone. I'm not just going to give you a pamphlet or a phone number. We're going to get on the phone and we're going to call someone and you're going to talk to them. You're going to set up an appointment and you're going to go about your business.
Right, to get help.
Yes.
Oh, that's growth right there. I didn't see that coming. I thought you'd be like, nah, you can't come in.
No. You always have to find, if there's a situation that you can prevent someone from being in a situation that you've been in, you're going to do it. As an empowered survivor, you're going to do it. So.
Is there anybody out there that you want to work with?
That I want to work with? I can't remember her name, but we're friends on Facebook. The owner of Me Too.
Oh, okay.
It's so funny because I went to her profile. I'm like, why? How are we friends? But I messaged her. She never messaged me back. But I'm gonna keep trying.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to talk about? Anything that you want to put out there?
Oh, just our orientation, December 15th. If you go to Loves, LVES, Sexual Trauma Recovery, I think it's the page. You can find the orientation if you're interested in being a part of the organization.
What questions do you have?
Do you ever think there's a point where you 100% heal?
No, I don't think anyone will ever, because to me, when that happens, that person physically takes something from you. To me, that you're never going to get back because it happened. It's something that happened to you. It's not ever going to like be unhappen. I know that's probably not a word. So like, even still, I'm great in my life. But like I said, if I go on a plane and I see someone that looks like him, I'm like, oh shit, is that him? So it's not ever going to go away. You're still always going to have that feeling, but you're going to be able to do life a lot better. And then you might even be like me and be like, you want to help other people. So.
Would you ever like probably can't, but rejoin the military, or you just totally completely turned off toward it?
No, would never join the military again.
Would you try to talk somebody out of it?
It's not just from that. It's just a lot of
Just
other
your
things.
experience, period.
Just being Black in the military is definitely like a white person's thing. But go ahead.
Are there any coping mechanisms that you could give people who have experienced this that you can help them deal with anxiety, depression?
Oh, yes, that's a really good question. So, our brain, our thoughts are inevitable. You're going to have the thoughts. Something's going to be triggering you, and it's going to be that thought, right? The main important things are to not avoid that thought. The more uncomfortable you are in situations, the more comfortable you'll get with the situation. So if you go out and you're like, oh my God, it's too crowded. Okay, yeah, you don't feel safe. That's fine. But putting yourself in a comfortable situation is not avoiding your thoughts. So people will have bad thoughts, they'll get on social media, or they'll make themselves busy. But then your brain at night, when it's time for you to go to sleep, is going to be like, oh no. You avoided me all day. I'm here. Now you're not going to get no sleep. Now your sleep is messed up. So, definitely work through those moments. If you feel like you got to cry. Don't matter where you at, cry. Go to the bathroom if you don't want to cry in front of people. Definitely have a support system. Have a list of people that you can call that you know is going to answer the phone. Have your emergency, have your doctor's number on there, everything. Have a plan. What are you going to do if you feel like you need to cut your arm? Or what do you need to do if you feel like you need to take extra pills? Don't even have the pills. If you feel like you can't control yourself, don't have them. Like at one point, I had to get rid of the knives and glass in my apartment because I was like, you know what? I don't even want to put myself where I have the opportunity to do it. And I use glass all the time because it was a lot easier. But yeah.